This is the CBC Morning Report for Monday, October 10th. I'm Tisha Hines. Good morning. In our top story today, the draft policy concerning the multi-hazard early warning system could be before Parliament within a couple of months. Director of the Department of Emergency Management, Carrie Hines, says push to finally complete the draft comes as the DEM prepares for International Risk Education Day this Thursday. Ms. Hines was speaking to CBC's Shane Seeley last evening on TV8's current affairs program, The People's Business.
We do have a number of meetings for that particular day, a number of webinars that we will be participating in and meetings for the stakeholders. That is more surrounded around the policy because we have been working on the draft multi-hazard early warning systems policy for quite some time. And it is within this vein that we are really trying to finalize that documentation so that we will have it ready to go through our governance process, our Emergency Management Advisory Council, and then on to Cabinet at some point in the very near future to have it approved. So we are looking at doing those type of activities. But our activities as it relates to multi-hazard early warning systems will continue, and it will include some public activities as well, but not necessarily on that particular day.
How soon before, probably by the year end, we could have that policy in place? Have you set a target date?
Yes, we are hoping to have it in place by the end of the year. As I said, we're just looking at just finalizing the draft. Hopefully we'll get it to Cabinet as soon as possible. It does not, as I said, it really is the strategic framework. And it's not to say that we're not doing activities as the various stakeholders are not doing activities, we are. But I think it is very important guidance and strategic document to guide the national level program as we go forward.
Also on the program was Director of the Coastal Zone Management Unit, Dr. Leo Brewster. He contended climate change is real and the unit is continuing plans to protect the Barbados coastlines.
We have 5 new projects planned as part of the potential IDB study that will be starting probably within the next 2 years that are significant projects, and will continue the type of work that we're doing as we do now, because we recognize climate change is real and adaptation along the coast is essential. I just also wanted to point out that Barbadians really and truly need to download the BMS Insight app. It is essential because it covers all the hazards you need to consider, and you also need to get in to do the CAP download, because that tells you priority concerns for information dissemination.
Coming up on the CBC Morning Report, updates on the aftermath of the controversial school survey, and we also take a look at the war in Ukraine. That's next. Welcome back. The Anglican Church is responding to the controversy surrounding the survey sponsored by the Inter-American Development Bank, administered to some first-form students here in Barbados. The survey was deemed to contain some inappropriate questions pertaining to sexuality, gender identity, and substance abuse, among other things. Bishop of Barbados, the Right Reverend Michael Maxwell, is raising a number of concerns he believes need urgent attention.
Legally, ethically, and practically, parents or guardians should have been informed and consent sought, so that families would have had the choice to opt out of such an exercise. This is particularly important because in an age of data privacy and based on what has been reported so far, the information gleaned from those students seems deeply personal and sensitive and could have potentially been used against them. As it is yet unclear as to who would have been the owners of the data gathered and whether the ministry or the government had secured any legal assurances from the administrators of the test as to what will be any or all future use of the information sourced.
In his statement on the issue, Bishop Maxwell says there are still questions left unanswered surrounding the survey. He's of the view the matter goes beyond the questions simply being offensive.
Why was the test not reviewed by a ministry official before final administration, given the reported initial objections to a number of areas? Will the test be now administered to other children with the removal of the questionable items? And if so, what is the ultimate validity and robust nature of the results? Does the Ministry of Education have a standing ethics body responsible for creating guidelines and/or oversight for the testing of all students under their care? And what provision will now be made for the mental health care of the participants who have been adversely affected by their participation in the survey, and who will finance this treatment?
Meanwhile, the Inter-American Development Bank has given a verbal undertaking to fund the psychological assistance the Education Ministry intends to provide for those affected. Minister Kay McConney made the disclosure yesterday on VOB's Brass Tacks program.
Specifically, psychologists are what we had a discussion about. The letter has already been sent because we had on Friday, I met with the local rep for the IDB here. We had verbal confirmation that we would be supportive in terms of making sure that psychologists are made available. And we have already sent off the letter to IDB confirming and thanking them for that. Now we will work out the specifics to make sure that there is the process in place urgently to make sure that that is done.
As we go further afield, at least 12 people have been killed by Russian missile attacks in a Ukrainian city in the latest attack that President Zelensky called absolute evil. More victims may be under the rubble as a search and rescue operation has been launched.
Zaporizhia, the city, has experienced night after night of this. The civilians there have been repeatedly pounded by Russian missile and airstrikes, attacks often hitting apartment buildings and homes. It's indiscriminate at best, it's intentional at worst. I think Ukrainians certainly feel that it is intentional. That's why they describe Russia as a terrorist state. The latest round of airstrikes, we're told by Ukrainian authorities, 12 missiles launched from Russian planes last night. At least one apartment building hit, 5 homes destroyed. Now, what happens possibly to trigger this? Well, of course, there was the attack on the Crimean Bridge, which Ukraine at the moment is not explicitly saying it was responsible for, but there are more hints, more insinuation from leaders and authorities. The fronts in the east and the south are not moving at the moment as fast as they have been in recent days. The Ukrainian advance paused or slowed down, but fighting does go on.
Hoda Abdelhamid went to meet some of the people living nearest to the front line. She sent this report from the village of Stepnogorsk.
More than 5,000 people used to live in Stepnogorsk. Now there are only a few hundred left in the village. You can't imagine how many explosions we hear day and night, Olga tells me. Come with me, I'll show you how we live. As she leads us to the basement, the delicious smell of home cooking is overwhelming. Just another day in the shelter, they say. Some of these women have known each other since kindergarten. They have been living here for months now, celebrating birthdays and giving each other courage. The front line is about 5 kilometers away. The village is within artillery range. The thumps can be heard even down here. Olena is most worried at night. She keeps herself busy doing crosswords.
We are here on our own. Sometimes when there's no shelling, we run to our apartment, but it's scary. Here we chat with each other and keep ourselves distracted.
It's always astonishing to meet those who stay in a war zone, who don't want to leave their family history behind. Alone, Luba had no other choice but to join this underground community. But life in the basement can also be lonely at times.
What can we do? Life needs to go on. The children and grandchildren, they are far. We don't want them to take our land. We don't want to be conquered. I don't want them to take this part.
Stepnogorsk is the first village near the contact line in the Ukrainian-controlled part of Zaporizhia. The women are concerned that the Russians might want to take it after Moscow announced it had annexed the region. They say they will remain on the ground, hoping that day never comes.
Traffic has resumed on a key road and rail bridge linking Russia and Crimea hours after it was partially destroyed by a truck explosion, and an investigation is underway to find out who was behind the attack.
The areas shown in red are under the control of Russian forces and their separatist allies. The Kerch Strait Bridge is a critical route that's supplying Moscow's troops in southern Ukraine and the naval port of Sevastopol. Al Jazeera's Johnny Tanios is near the bridge on the Crimean side and has more on the Russian investigation into what happened.
The process is now exceptionally difficult. Long lines of vehicles waiting on both ends of the bridge, from the Russian side and the peninsula too, as checkpoints were set up on both sides. We can see from this side the damaged part of the vehicle road bridge. Search involves both vehicles and individuals. The process may take hours. Vehicles are then released in groups, escorted by security, all the way through for security and logistic reasons, as only one side of the bridge is currently operational. The train carriages that caught fire as a result of the explosion remain as they were. The railway track will resume operations later this evening, according to the Russian Ministry of Transport. In the meantime, Russian security personnel are still following up with forensic inspections and investigations initiated by the technical committee formed by President Putin. The committee is also responsible for restoring the bridge and resuming normal functions. As said, security measures are not limited to the checkpoints on both ends, but along the whole passage. Especially the bridge, since its inauguration in 2018, has been under tight security measures. It's equipped not only with surveillance cameras, but also defence systems. The security measures extend far beyond the areas near the bridge to avoid traffic congestions amid the high number of vehicles approaching the bridge.
Well, it's time now for a preview of what's coming up on Morning Barbados. As we observe today, World Mental Health Day, we're going to have Dr. Keogh Ford St. Hill coming in to share with us, as well as Reverend Dr. Marcus Lashley and Krista Delaney, who will be talking to us more on mental health in Barbados. We'll hear more about the week of activity, and we're focusing on inequality during this year's celebration. Also, we're going to tell you about a fundraiser for Adrian Howard. He needs open heart surgery, and we're going to tell you how you can be a part of that. Food safety matters will also be on the table for Morning Barbados, as Carolyn Pilgrim, a food technologist, takes us through all of that, all of those matters, and that's all coming up on Morning Barbados. So we're going to take a break from the CBC Morning Report at this point, and when we come back, we'll have more news for you. Stay with us. Welcome back. 18 and a half minutes after 6 o'clock. The national effort to help more Barbadians become financially literate is changing course. Plans have been announced for Phase 2 of programs to be announced by the Financial Literacy Bureau in the communities across the island. News of this from advisor in the Ministry of Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship, David Simpson, during a ceremony to launch Phase 2 at Frank Cullimore Hall. He says while COVID-19 hampered some developments, many Barbadians showed great interest in the Bureau's courses, which hundreds attended on the virtual platform. Mr. Simpson.
We have reorganized the Bureau to support its evolution and its growth as we progress. This evening represents not only a change and advancement for the Bureau and the way that it operates, but also for you as facilitators, participants, and the public. Over the past 2 years, you have met us halfway, whether at a community center, a school, or on the Zoom platform. But today, this launch represents the Bureau coming to you and meeting you where you are in your respective communities. Our Phase 2 has been revamped into a community engagement phase, which will go far beyond the counseling and financial intervention as previously envisaged.
Mr. Simpson says moving ahead with the Financial Literacy Bureau's Community Engagement Program is the next logical step to empower Barbadians in this regard. The Barbados Workers Union has recommitted to making the lives of Barbadian workers better. The commitment from General Secretary Tony Moore came during a service at the St. George Parish Church marking its 81st anniversary. She says the BWU must persist in its work.
Our year where we are celebrating under the theme Reset, it comes as a timely reminder that as lay people, we must not grow tired. We must not grow tired in good works. We must not grow tired when we hear the foolish talk all around us, but we must be encouraged, just as the scripture reminded us today, that we must continue to work. But not only work hard.
Assistant priest at the St. George Parish Church, Reverend Suzette Archer, encouraged Barbados and the BWU not to be weary in doing what is right.
Our faith is a living and vibrant faith, and so must be our ministries. It is time for us as a church, as a diocese, as a parish, even for those members of the union who are joining us, to, as the bishop advised earlier this year, reset. And look how God confirms this message through the gift of the pen that was given to us from the president, executive, and members of the Barbados Workers Union this morning with the word reset. There's no doubt that we as the body of Christ need to reset
As we look across the region now, we hear that Guyana's Ministry of Health is preparing to roll out an ambitious, comprehensive and aggressive cancer control and prevention plan. It will change the diagnosis, treatment and care trajectory locally.
Cancer in its different forms continues to be one of the leading causes of death worldwide, with over 10 million persons globally succumbing to the disease annually. However, optimism remains rife that with collaborative efforts and joint services, this ugly disease can one day be eradicated. It is against that backdrop that the Chronic Disease Unit of the Ministry of Health has announced the establishment of its National Cancer Control and Prevention Plan, which is slated to roll out before the end of 2022.
This new strategy is going to emphasize all of these: education and awareness, the preventive strategy with technology, etc., the diagnostic capacity and the treatment capacity.
That was head of the Presidential Commission on the Prevention and Control of Non-Communicable Diseases, Dr. Leslie Ramsamy, speaking to 90 News. Dr. Ramsamy explained that the comprehensive plan follows a number of stakeholder meetings and provides guidelines for a better approach to the fight against all types of cancers, as well as raising more awareness and public education of this global health crisis, which he said are critical aspects of addressing the disease.
The diagnostic capacity is important. And whilst things like self-examination and so are important, we have to have our hospitals more prepared.
As we head north, there's news the estimated United States price tag on the damage Hurricane Ian caused is between $30 and $100 billion. If accurate, Ian will be one of the costliest storms to hit the U.S.
Tallying up the losses from Hurricane Ian has only just begun.
Our roof is in the back of the house.
For these retirees, seeing the damage to their homes and neighborhood was overwhelming.
There's no words for it. It's like, holy cow, what a mess.
The southwest coast of Florida took the brunt of wind and storm surge, but the impact of the heavy rainfall was felt further inland and up the United States eastern coast. Experts say wetter storms is one impact of climate change.
The majority of the cost, as well as the lives lost as a result of hurricanes and tropical cyclones, comes from flooding. It comes from storm surge. It comes from the rainfall.
One of the costliest storms in U.S. history, Superstorm Sandy, wasn't even a hurricane by the time it got here in New York, and yet here's where it did the most damage. $82 billion in flooding and infrastructure costs. Some early estimates for Hurricane Ian are approaching that.
More than 40,000 utility workers were dispatched to Florida alone to help restore power. Water mains and roads have also suffered extensive damage, not to mention bridges. The governor said 800 of them were in need of assessment. President Biden declared a disaster in Florida, paving the way for federal assistance for infrastructure as well as individuals.
It means the federal government will provide individual assistance of $37,900 for home repairs, another $37,900 for lost property, for everything from automobile to a lost wedding ring.
With several healthcare facilities damaged and forced to evacuate, health impacts and related costs will take years to fully understand.
And it's gone in a flash.
While the human costs remain incalculable.
Suicide rates in the Americas are trending upwards. This development is worrying for the chief of Pan American Health Organization's Mental Health Unit. He shared his concerns during the latest PAHO Live Conversations, Make Mental Health and Well-Being for All a Global Priority.
We have to be able to work closer with countries and support them to develop strategies to prevent suicide in our region. And additionally also, we know that the COVID-19 pandemic continues to significantly impact the mental health of persons across the region, also impact our health systems and services in general. We have documented already research coming from different countries.
Quite timely information as we observe World Mental Health Day today. In sports now, the Windies have won their first match since arriving down under, taking their opening official ICC T20 World Cup warm-up game last evening against the United Arab Emirates, playing at Junction Oval in Melbourne. And asked to bat first, the Windies posted a below-par 152 for 9 from their 20 overs. They had to recover from a slow start of 22 for 3 after 4.3 overs, losing Johnson Charles for 1, Evan Lewis for 2, and Shamar Brooks for 4. Brandon King eventually the top scorer with 64 off 45 deliveries. That was inclusive of 7 fours and 2 sixes. Skipper Nicholas Puran belted 46 with 5 sixes as he and King put on 95 for the 4th wicket partnership. Medium-fast bowler Sadiq was virtually unplayable for the Windies batters as he took 5 for 13 from his 4 overs. In reply, the UAE fell way behind on the required run rate, and after the 20 overs were bowled, they were only 135 for 6 for the Windies to win by 17 runs. The only player to cope with the Windies' attack was opener Mohamed Wasim, who batted through the innings to score 69 not out. That included 4 fours and 3 sixes. Raymond Reefer was the best Windies bowler with 3 for 17. Now, before last night's victory, the Windies had lost both matches in a short series against the Aussies. Next for the Windies will be their second and final official warm-up game. It'll be against the Netherlands on Wednesday. Now, before last night's match, head coach of the West Indies team, Phil Simmons, said the 2 warm-up matches against the United Arab Emirates and the Netherlands are opportunities for the team to execute their game plans.
It's about getting things to work together, about getting the plans we have in place, about making sure that players are getting sharper and sharper as they go along, you know. So it's about what we want in this. The batsmen look good. The batsmen understand what we need to add to get to where we want to be, and they've been working hard. Today we had a good net session with everyone, and everyone's looking forward to playing the practice game tomorrow, getting in the middle and doing what's necessary for the team. So far, the enthusiasm and the excitement is there in all the players, so that's good to see. I'm not looking at winning the World Cup yet. I'm looking at the first game, and the first game is against Scotland on the 17th, and that's where you focus now. When you finish with that one, you focus on the next one. So right now is about sharpening up and making sure that we're ready for the 17th and the start of our tournament.
And of course, we wish the boys all the best. That's today's morning report. Our next Newsday will begin at noon, and that will be followed by The World at 1 on our radio services, 98.1 FM, 100.7 FM, and 94.7 FM. It's 6:30 in Barbados and across the Eastern Caribbean. Let's peek at the weather. It's currently a cool 25 degrees Celsius all across Barbados, and it'll feel like 32 degrees outside. Relative humidity stands at 89%. The barometric pressure, 13.4 millibars, and the winds are blowing out of the east at 19 kilometers per hour. If you're heading to the beach, low tide will be at 15 minutes before 10 this morning, and again at 17 minutes after 10 this evening if you're going for a late night dip. One high tide today at 4:03 p.m. this afternoon. And now for the forecast, smooth to moderate in open water with swells ranging from 1 to 1.5 meters and increasing. It'll be mostly cloudy to overcast with scattered moderate to heavy showers and periods of rain and isolated thunderstorms today, so be sure to walk with your umbrellas. And it is going to be mostly cloudy with clear breaks with a few brief scattered moderate to heavy showers and a very slight chance of isolated thunderstorms tonight. Here's a peek at the temperatures for a few international cities. Definitely very different from what we're experiencing here in Barbados. And that's it for the morning report. Coming up next, Morning Barbados. Stay with us.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good
And good morning to you. It's 6:31 in Barbados and across the Eastern Caribbean. So good to be back with you for another week. It's October 10th. Can you believe it? I'm Tisha Hines, and I'll be with you for another hour or so, or just after, just longer than that. All right, we want to make sure that you watch and follow us online as well. You can find us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, or you can send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Certainly hope you had a wonderful weekend because there was lots to do and see, but more importantly, I hope you got some rest if you've been working hard all week long. Okay, we're going to jump into what we have planned for you today for Morning Barbados because we are observing World Mental Health Day today, and it's very important that we undertake these discussions because for a very long time, these topics have been taboo. We want to say good morning and welcome to Dr. Keo Ford St. Hill, psychiatrist with the Barbados Association of Psychiatrists. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Tisha, and happy World Mental Health Day to all of Barbados.
Oh, thank you so much, and it's great to have you with us. Getting up this early in the morning can be a challenge for some people, but you look like a morning person, so that in itself is a good thing.
In a way.
All right, well, let's start at the very beginning. Talk to us about the theme for World Mental Health Day in 2022.
Yes, so the theme for World Mental Health Day this year is Make Mental Health and Well-Being for All a Global Priority. And that is, last year they were doing Make Mental Health, a priority. And now we've recognized throughout the COVID pandemic that we actually need to make it a global priority, right? So that involves conversations such as what we're having now, educating persons about mental health. It involves making priorities in terms of global budgets and national budgets and funding, and then making mental health care accessible to all because there are quite a few inequalities depending on the country.
Let's talk a little bit about the accessibility of care when it came to the global health pandemic with COVID-19. We know a lot of people were locked away. A lot of people were not able to necessarily reach out to others, see their loved ones, maybe lean on their support systems and things of that nature. What was it like to be able to reach out to patients and people who needed help during the pandemic?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Tisha, because there was a lot of isolation, figuratively and, maybe forced or voluntary during the pandemic. And we in psychiatry and mental health care started to see an increase in persons reaching out to us for anxiety related symptoms, depression, as well as just, difficulty coping and adjusting. Now, one of the most interesting things I found from the beginning of the pandemic until now, even just in Barbados, is the lack of information that persons have about how to access mental health services in Barbados. So that was one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, I can imagine. And, like you said, this would have informed the theme for 2022. A lot of us, when we think of health, we think of health as in physical health. But mental health is equally a part of that. And I know your organization advocates really to bridge that gap. Tell me more.
Yes, we do. The Barbados Association of Psychiatrists, as it says, is we're a nonprofit professional organization for psychiatry as well as psychiatrists. So for our members, as well as educating the public and advocating on behalf of the clients that we serve, both publicly and privately, well, for the nation of Barbados, really and truly. So that is one of the biggest things that we try to do as far as educating persons about psychiatric illness and to understand that there is no health without mental health. And also what we try to look at as well now is more prevention. So in speaking about mental health, as opposed not that we're pushing mental illness to the back burner, but we prefer prevention rather than cure.
I know usually we have this long checklist of things that we want to get through, that we'd like to check off, and usually at the top of that list is eradicating stigma. I mean, for me, I think that'll be so difficult to do in a place like Barbados, where even lingo, the way we speak on an everyday basis is, it's almost normal. Not almost, it's normal, practically, for somebody to say, "You mad, you crazy." And only after I was speaking with a colleague from Africa, he was offended when he was speaking with someone else and they said that to him, and that's how I was able to see it. But it's so normal in Barbados to say things like that we really don't recognize how we can be tearing others down. So what's the plan generally to be able to move past these things and help us recognize the error sometimes in our ways, even when we're not trying to hurt others?
You are so accurate. Just saying, even if we think about what the psychiatric hospital is referred to as amongst the public, and you think, as you said, people say, "Oh, you mad, you going to a mad doctor," or people tell me, they tell psychiatrists, "Oh, you see mad people." No, I don't. Mad means angry. So it is, fighting stigma really is one of our number one causes that we are championing, and it is an uphill climb. But what I would say is that it has gotten better over the last couple of years, because mental illness and mental health and psychiatry has been an emerging topic, particularly in the pandemic. So opportunities such as this that we at the Barbados Association of Psychiatrists take in terms of educating the public about that we exist, being an organization that exists, having, a good social media presence, because that is how you reach people at this point. Every opportunity we get, we take to speak to persons, to educate them on mental illness so that they understand, because today it's me, tomorrow it could be you. It really does. Mental illness does not discriminate.
I had an opportunity to, I did a program a few years ago, and I went out to the mental hospital and I spoke with a gentleman there. He really broke my heart. He was in the halfway house, I think they call it, where they live on the premises, but they're still able to kind of reintegrate themselves and so on.
Yeah,
and he said,
the quarterway house.
Yes, he said, I used to be my mother's best child, and after this happened to me, I'm now the worst child. And he talked about not having anywhere to go. What are we doing to get families more involved? Because if we don't get families involved, then these people really can't get themselves back out into society and do well. It's like a double whammy for them. So yes. What are you doing as an organization, and what can we do to try to help to get this message out there across?
So it starts with speaking about the mental illnesses and educating prior and beforehand to the public and getting the message out there so that people are more educated, because a lot of people don't actually understand the signs and symptoms of mental illness or how they come about. They think that that some patients are putting it on. They're just wicked. They just won't listen, And then when somebody is actually diagnosed with a mental illness, the onus is on us as mental health professionals, from nurses to social workers to the doctors, to make sure that we empower and educate and counsel the family members from early. Because if we wait until when we're ready, if somebody's admitted, if we wait until the person's discharged to start having this conversation, we've already missed the boat to, allay any fears that the family have, because sometimes it's out of a lack of knowledge and fear. We find then is if we wait too late, then it takes a longer time for them to get comfortable, and some of them never get comfortable with caring for their family members or living with their family members who have been diagnosed with a mental illness. So it starts at the beginning, and we try prevention, but at least at the first point of contact to do as much education about illnesses as we can.
Well, I know we're observing the day today, but most certainly the fight continues. So talk to us about what the plans are for today and the days coming.
Yes. So we actually started this year. We decided we're going to have a series of conversations. Just like I was saying, we're trying to educate the public. So we actually started on the 6th of October. Last week, we had Instagram Live with Let's Unpack It. And you can go to our Instagram page as well, the Barbados Association of Psychiatrists, or Let's Unpack It. And you will actually be able to still see the live from last week in case you missed it. So that is quite fine. And then, of course, today I'm here on Mornin Barbados with you. And on Sunday, we'll be on The People's Business. And we'll actually have some other mental health professionals with us exploring the business of mental health. And this month is actually also Menopause Awareness Month. And on Wednesday, the 26th at 7, we are having a free panel discussion via Zoom on menopause and mental health. Silence is no longer an option, and menopause is another taboo topic with women. So that is one of the reasons that we picked that. And you can keep track for the Zoom link and login credentials and stuff on our Facebook and Instagram pages, the Barbados Association of Psychiatrists. And for the public, the psychiatric hospital also is doing activities as well. And this Sunday, we are having a mental health fun walk. So it will be from the Carlton complex down to the Mighty Griner highway, and you can contact the psychiatric hospital if you would like to register and we have t-shirts and everything. So that is what we're doing this week.
I look forward to it. I did it a few years ago, but the last few years with all that's been going on, so I definitely look forward to that. I'd like to thank you so much. Continue all of the work that you're doing. And I know you're going to have a busy week ahead. So thank you so much. Remember, the theme is Make Mental Health and Well-Being for All a Global Priority. And we're going to keep the conversation going all this week and into next week right here on CBC TV 8. Remember, these are the hashtags you can use as well. Thanks so much to Dr. Keo Ford St. Hill, who's with the Barbados Association of Psychiatrists. We will keep the conversation going. When we come back on Morning Barbados, we'll be joined by Reverend Dr. Marcus Lashley and Krista Delaney as we continue on this World Mental Health Day. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
A rainy morning in Barbados, but we're going to have a good day none the same. So make sure you walk with your umbrellas. Make sure you're prepared for anything. All right, especially with the little ones, you want to make sure they have their umbrellas as well. I used to have some rainmate type thing when I went to school. I don't know. Maybe that contributed to some of my anxiety. You know, especially secondary children can be very, very mean. I think it was a poncho or something like that. I don't know. Do people still wear ponchos? Make sure you're prepared, whatever you do. So today we are observing World Mental Health Day. And joining us now, I told you a little earlier that we were going to have Krista Delaney with us. It's early morning, so we have a switcheroo. Joining us now, we have Reverend Dr. Marcus Lashley, clinical and psychologist with the Barbados Society of Psychology, and also Mrs. Naomi White, a counselor. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Good
It's so
morning.
great to
Good
see
morning,
both
Barbados.
of you.
It's good to see you again.
Thank you for having
and,
us.
To be on. Good morning.
Absolutely. All right. So first of all, I'd like to wish you the best on this day as we observe World Mental Health Day. And I don't think that we can ever talk too much about what we need to do in terms of mental health. Now, we spoke with a psychiatrist a little earlier, and now we're speaking to you who are with the Barbados Society of Psychology. So for those people who might not know Dr. Lashley, can we make a differentiation?
Oh, it's easy. I often joke and say that one of the major differences is that psychiatrists actually prescribe medication and we don't. But we pretty much do the same thing in terms of our training, but also in terms of the kinds of people that we see, the range. Because in psychology, we've got different disciplines, sports psychology, educational psychology, and of course forensic, which is the big thing that people remember from CSI and so on. So we do work with persons who have varying degrees of mental health challenges, but in with the psychiatrists, they begin from the model of medicine and the body, and therefore one of the tools they use is the prescribing of medication, psychotropic medication.
Okay, Mrs. White, I know that usually one of the barometers we use to measure what's happening or learn about what's happening in our world is television. And a lot of the times we see people in the northern part, a little north, up north from us. Those people are sitting with counselors and psychologists and so on. A lot of the times here in Barbados, and most certainly across the region, that has not been a hallmark of how we handle problems or how we handle things that are going on with us. Have you seen a shift in the way people are approaching psychology or approaching mental health in terms of seeking counseling?
Yes, indeed. I would say we can look at the history of access to mental health support, a bit of a privilege. And luckily, there has been, even though a small progress, there has really been a progress in terms of reducing some of the stigma that is attached to mental health unwell-being, and therefore also the courage to access or even to know how to access those services. And I must say, while the COVID-19 pandemic has brought us many downs and many disastrous circumstances, has also on the upside contributed to some of that awareness, alongside with, I think, access to the internet. That is also a major factor in giving voices to individuals who might be experiencing challenges with their mental health, or even other professionals who are able to raise public awareness.
Reverend Dr. Lashley, over the years we've seen a shift in the types of issues that have been coming to the fore. You know, what are some of the major things that people are dealing with generally that maybe wouldn't have been problems in recent times?
Well, I think that in post-pandemic period now that we're entering into, We're having people coming in with issues around anxiety, and they're focusing on what do I do now in terms of making a transition and a shift. And it's a bit of a challenge for some people to go back to work. So that's an emerging issue for many of the employers. It's also an issue as people, pardon me, address the various challenges that they're having in terms of caregiving, especially with relatives still left at home, the ongoing and ever-present issues of relationships, especially with partners who may be having mental health challenges. It's also an area that we are looking at very, very carefully because we are seeing a number of suicides in Barbados that is beginning to concern us. And as we enter into the high emotional period, which will be for us in Barbados, the Independence, Christmas, New Year's, where we're relating to those who are significant in our lives, then the possibility of increased tension comes and potential conflict.
High emotional period, I think, is the first time I've heard that period referred to as the high emotional period. But makes sense. Very, very interesting. Definitely would make for interesting discussion. All right. I know that you want to focus on inequality, Mrs. White. Tell me more about that. Where do the inequalities come into play?
Yes, indeed. So hand in hand with the world's theme of the World Mental Health Day, make mental health and well-being for all a global priority, I think it is important to consider some of the members of more marginalized communities who may have experienced a greater challenge of accessing support to mental health. And so we want to highlight some of those marginalized groups, including, and I think this might come as a surprise because usually we do not hear the definition of men as being part of a marginalized group in any other circumstances. But when it comes to the stigma attached to men accessing support for their mental well-being, it is really considered something to be more of a female approach. It's like, no, as a man, I'm tough enough. I got this. I can handle this on my own. So we really want to look at that that component. How well do men access mental health services? We also want to think about females who engage in sex work, because that's definitely an area that has not been well enough in the history of Barbados and the Caribbean. We also want to look at members of the LGBT plus community, and we are also including members of the community of invisible disabilities. And I'm hoping I'm covering all. So, and youth and children as well. So we will have different events as part of our organization's Psychology Week, where we are hoping to address these marginalized groups.
All right, very interesting. Men, specifically sex workers, LGBTQI plus community, young people. How do you shape the approach to each of them, and why is it important to approach each marginalized group in a different and distinct way? Reverend Dr. Lashley.
I think it would be a major error to think that all groups that are minorities have exactly the same challenges, and that's not true. The reality is that the constituency will be different. The history and experiences that they would have gone through would change over time and would be different. And therefore, our response as mental health practitioners has to be tailored specifically to the individual concerns of each group. When we look at a group such as the youth, we can't employ the same techniques as we would for persons who are much older. Our younger people are at a certain developmental stage. They have specific concerns. They use technology in a very different way to many of our older members of the community. And so when we approach mental health responses, then it has to be specifically tailored to the group that we're dealing with, and in some cases, the gender.
All right. And I know you have lots of activities planned as an organization as well. And,
Yes.
you know, you'll be joining with other organizations. So talk to us quickly about what's planned.
Okay, we had our church service yesterday in which our president, the current president, Dr. Deanna Ford, who is a member of St. Dominic's, invited us to be with her and the congregation at St. Dominic's because Father Theodore Taylor, who was a priest there, was one of our founding members. Tuesday, we have Careers in Psychology, a virtual student forum. The Zoom link is there for us on the screen. And we're going to be looking at the areas of psychology that are most interest to many of the young people in Barbados. Counseling, industrial, organizational, educational, clinical, and so on. And then on Wednesday, this is where we have the Instagram live session in collaboration with Let's Unpack It. And the presenters are people who are all well known. And I think that's going to be a most interesting session as we focus a lot in that session on youth and our mental health. On Thursday, we're going to have another public forum, and this one is a panel discussion, and the panelists are both psychologists. We have both a student member and also our Miss Naomi White, who's here with us, Joanne Prosper Chase, Quinn Farrell, and Jamal Prescott, our student member. And you can log on both Instagram and Facebook at the Barbados Society of Psychology, not psychologists, the Barbados Society of Psychology for these sessions. And then on Friday will be a members only session in which we'll be donating some funds to the Jabez House.
Well, that's quite a mouthful and lots happening. And we certainly will continue to update. Do come on back and let us know how everything turns out. Thank you so much, Mrs. White, Councillor Naomi White, and Reverend Dr. Marcus Lashley for coming on through and sharing with us. All the best for today and the days ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Enjoy.
Absolutely. It's 7 o'clock. Time for us to give you an update on the news.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 2 minutes after 7 o'clock. Time for an update of the news. The draft policy concerning the multi-hazard early warning system could be before Parliament within a couple of months. Director of the Department of Emergency Management, Carrie Hines, says push to finally complete the draft comes as the DEM prepares for International Risk Education Day this Thursday. Ms. Hines was speaking to CBC's Shane Seeley last evening on TV8's current affairs program, The People's Business.
We do have a number of meetings for that particular day, a number of webinars that we will be participating in. and meetings for the stakeholders. That is more surrounded around the policy because we have been working on the draft multi-hazard early warning systems policy for quite some time. And it is within this vein that we are really trying to finalize that documentation so that we will have it ready to go through our governance process, our emergency management advisory council, and then on to cabinet at some point in the very near future to have it approved. So we are looking at doing those type of activities. But our activities as it relates to multi-hazard early warning systems will continue, and it will include some public activities as well, but not necessarily on that particular day.
How soon before, probably by the year end, we could have that policy in place? Have you set a target date?
Yes, we are hoping to have it in place by the end of the year. As I said, we're just looking at just finalizing the draft. Hopefully we'll get it to cabinet as soon as possible. It does not, as I said, it really is the strategic framework. And it's not to say that we are not doing activities as the various stakeholders are not doing activities, we are. But I think it is very important guidance and strategic document to guide the national level program as we go forward.
Also on the program was Director of the Coastal Zone Management Unit, Dr. Leo Brewster. He contended climate change is real and the unit is continuing plans to protect the Barbados coastlines.
We have 5 new projects planned as part of the potential IDB study that will be starting probably within the next 2 years that are significant projects and will continue the type of work that we're doing as we do now, because we recognize climate change is real and adaptation along the coast is essential. I just also wanted to point out that Barbadians really and truly need to download the BMS Insight app. It is essential because it covers all the hazards you need to consider, and you also need to get in to do the CAP download because that tells you priority concerns for information dissemination.
The Anglican Church is responding to the controversy surrounding the survey sponsored by the Inter-American Development Bank, administered to some first-form students here in Barbados. The survey was deemed to contain some inappropriate questions pertaining to sexuality, gender identity, and substance abuse, among other things. Bishop of Barbados, the Right Reverend Michael Maxwell, is raising a number of concerns he believes need urgent attention.
Legally, ethically, and practically, parents or guardians should have been informed and consent sought, so that families would have had the choice to opt out of such an exercise. This is particularly important because in an age of data privacy and based on what has been reported so far, the information gleaned from those students seems deeply personal and sensitive and could have potentially been used against them, as it is yet unclear as to who would have been the owners of the data gathered and whether the ministry or the government had secured any legal assurances from the administrators of the test as to what will be any or all future use of the information sourced.
In his statement on the issue, Bishop Maxwell says there are still questions left unanswered surrounding the survey. He is of the view the matter goes far beyond the fact of the questions simply being offensive.
Why was the test not reviewed by a ministry official before final administration, given the reported initial objections to a number of areas? Will the test be now administered to other children with the removal of the questionable items? And if so, what is the ultimate validity and robust nature of the results? Does the Ministry of Education have a standing ethics body responsible for creating guidelines and/or oversight for the testing of all students under their care? And what provision will now be made for the mental health care of the participants who have been adversely affected by their participation in the survey and who will finance this treatment.
On the heels of all that has happened, the Inter-American Development Bank has given a verbal undertaking to fund the psychological assistance the Education Ministry intends to provide to those affected. Minister Kay McConney made the disclosure yesterday on VOB's Brass Tacks program. We're going to take a break here and come on back. Do stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 25 degrees across Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, but they're telling us it's going to feel like 32 degrees outside, so it's still feeling a little warm. With that said, still make sure that you get yourselves ready by taking your umbrellas or whatever you need to keep yourselves dry. Now, how many times have you gone into the supermarket and you're looking at meats or something else and you're thinking, is this how it's supposed to look? I'm not sure. Well, we're going to try to bridge the gap on some of that for you today as we continue our series on food safety. Now, we're going to welcome Carolyn Pilgrim, who is a food technologist, and she started this discussion with Pearson. Pearson is now long gone. Maybe he's grocery shopping today. So good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me again.
Wonderful to have you here. And like I said, sometimes we don't know exactly what to look for, or you might have an inkling, hey, something doesn't look right, but I think it's important to kind of lay the law of the land, which is what we're going to do in terms of food safety. So when we're talking about meats and figuring out whether meats or fish are fresh, what are we looking for?
Okay, so you need to use all of your senses. So you need to use your nose. You want to avoid anything that has a discernible off odor. And then you need to use your sense of touch. You touch it, the meat should be firm. And you need to use your eyes, your sense of sight. So different colors for different meats can indicate freshness. So for pork, it'll be pinkish red. That's good. You don't want it pale. And any fat should be white. For beef, it should be bright cherry red. If it's sealed, it'll be purplish red, and if it's just opened, it will be cherry red. And for lamb, it should be soft pink to red. So those are the colors that you're looking for. For poultry, you want it, pink. You don't want any grayness, any green. I've seen some gray and some green before. You don't want dark wing tips. Those kinds of things. And for fish, you want to make sure that, again, the meat is firm. You want it to have no particularly fishy odor. I mean, it's fish, it will have an odor, but it shouldn't be sour or rancid or overly fishy. The gills should be nice and red. You should have red bloodlines, red flesh in tuna, no sunken eyes. So many things. So many things.
That's a good start, and that certainly is a long list of things to check. I know that,
Yes, it's a
you know,
long.
I know personally I've heard that some supermarkets inject dye into the meats. So how do we get around that to make them look, red and fresher? And this is a fact. I know that for a fact.
I mean, I hope that. I mean, I don't put anything past certain people in the food industry. Sometimes people do really crazy things. I would hope that that's not occurring anywhere here in Barbados. But I don't know how you would necessarily tell if it's injected. Because I mean, when it bleeds out of the meat, it will look red. So I'm not certain how you'll be able to discern that, to be honest. That's something I'll have to research and get back to you.
All right, we certainly will look forward to hearing from you on that. And then other seafoods, you talked about fish, but other seafoods that you might be looking at, what are we looking for or smelling for?
Yes. So like, scallops and shrimp, they shouldn't have any, off odor. They should be clear and, pearly white. And for like crabs and lobsters, you need to have leg movement. You need to have leg movement. And for oysters and those things, you need to do a tap test. You shouldn't use any that have cracked or broken shells. And you need to do a tap test. If you tap them and they don't close, you shouldn't use them. For sushi, it should be, the highest grade, sashimi grade, just the highest grade meat you want to have. And also for fish, with the fillets, there should be no discoloration or no drying around the edges.
I know for me,
a lot to remember.
I've seen some fish, sometimes you go on in and it looks like it has been frozen and defrosted and frozen again. So it has what I would call like maybe ice crystals on it. Is that a problem?
Yep. Yes, it is. You shouldn't use ones that have ice crystals because that suggests that it was thawed and refrozen. So if it was thawed, it probably was temperature abused and then refrozen. So you really should not use those at all.
I like that term. It was temperature abused. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then of course we really need to look at dates, expiration dates that things were packaged and put out, and things like that.
So important. So they have two very important ones. They use by date and the best before date, and sometimes people use them interchangeably. Sometimes people get confused about what they mean and they're not sure. So very importantly, the use by date is to do with safety. So it's telling you that after this date, this food is no longer safe to consume and it should not be on sale. Okay, so the best before date is to do with quality, like sensory quality. So nuts may be a little rancid, biscuits might not be as crunchy, your Pringles might not be as crunchy, but it's not to do with safety, it's to do with sensory quality. If you check, US sites will tell you that use by dates are not to do with safety, but if you use UK guidance or EU guidance, or even in Australia, they all use by dates to deal with safety. And I was trained in the UK, so those are the definitions I go by.
And there are some foods that are deemed high-risk foods. What are some of these foods and what should we look out for?
Okay, so like egg and egg products like quiche, and for like dairy and dairy products like desserts, anything to do with meat, stews and gravies, fresh cut fruit, really important, and things like, seafood things, seafood salads and those kinds of things, and salads in general, coleslaws, Caesar salads, garden salads, those things that are pre-prepared and on sale. Those are all high risk because they're ready to eat. They're prepared beforehand, they're ready to eat, and so there's a definite concern with some of them that if they're not prepared safely and if they're not held at the correct temperature and you take it up and you take it home and you just pop the lid and eat it, you could be at risk of something. So you need to really check and make sure the dates are what they should be. You need to make sure the use by date is not gone, and you need to trust that the establishment that you're purchasing these things from, that you trust that these people are preparing it safely.
If there's one thing that COVID has done to me when it comes to food and food security and so on is, I never used to think so much about the people serving me food until we realized that without the mask, like everything is just out there. So, you know, what's your take on that, especially now that we're moving to a place where masks are optional? You know, what are your thoughts on people around food with or without hair coverings and masks and gloves? And it's a little touchy.
Yeah, I mean, I have a whole thing. Like I intend to do an entire segment on food handlers. I am so, that's like a really big thing for me because, you know, there's a whole list of things that they shouldn't be doing. They should have their hair covered. Should have their hair pulled back. They shouldn't have long nails. You know, the gloves are iffy because we try to advise against using bare hands because your hands, you know, if you don't wash them very regularly, your hands can pick up a lot of germs and you can transfer that to food if you're like, you know, handling the food with your bare hands. So some people advise using gloves, but then people think that, you know, I have gloves on now, so my hands are covered. So that's the problem, covered, so I can't food. So then they touch all kinds of things with the gloves, but your gloves they will pick up germs from everything you touch. So you still need to be very careful about how you use the gloves. They need to be careful in terms of how their attire is. They need to be very clean. They need to not wear those pesky, you know, little false eyelashes. They need to make sure that they're not, you know, contaminating when they're preparing and when they're serving. They need to make sure they're not carrying cross contact. They need to not take up something like seafood with tongs and then take up chicken with the same tongs, because someone who has an allergy to seafood, you've just contaminated those tongs with the allergenic compounds and you can make someone who's allergic to seafood very ill. It's a whole, trust me, I have a whole segment on food handlers.
I can just imagine. And I myself have witnessed, you know, people, I guess, is in trying to, you know, lessen the amount of staff they have or what have you, someone who is serving and then goes over to the cash register, and that always is a red flag for me.
It is because, you know, you should have more than one person, and you're so correct. Some people have cut back, I guess, you know, through COVID, people had to downsize, you know, it was a really big economic situation for a lot of people. And so people cut corners and they have the same person handling food that's handling the money. And that happened to me some weeks ago. The lady, she was one person out front and she handled the gentleman in front of me. She took his money and then she was coming to me directly. And I simply asked her to please sanitize her hands before she dealt with my food, because money is so dirty. So if you go directly from dealing with money then to go to serve some person's food, you are like, you know, as cross-contamination. You can contaminate someone's food, so you don't want to do that. And people should speak up. If you see that happening, just ask them to sanitize before they deal with your food, especially after dealing with money. But realistically, you should have one person dealing with money and one person dealing with, you know, putting out the food.
Carolyn, I don't know if we should listen to you, because if we do, we never would eat out.
You'll become paranoid.
Oh my goodness!
You know, if you practice these things enough, it becomes like second nature. To be honest.
Yes. All right. If people are anything like me, you know, I tend to do my shopping runs and I stop at a few places, but it's important to plan for that as well. If you're buying foods that must be stored at a certain temperature or what have you. Because I'm guilty of, sometimes I get home and the trunk is wet because meat has defrosted, because of, you know, the various stops and so on. So it's important that you factor in how you move when you're shopping as well.
Yes. So I suggest that you can invest in insulated bags. You know, if we travel overseas and we're bringing in frozen things, we will buy a big insulated bag. We'll freeze the things and we'll put them in the insulated bag before we pack them. So some people will have them from traveling. And you can also invest in a cooler. I invested in a cooler. So when I'm going shopping, I will take my cooler and some ice packs. So when I buy my meats and so on, when I come over to the supermarket, I'll put them directly into the cooler so that they're still remaining chilled while I do the rest of my shopping.
Carolyn, sometimes I get some bad looks from the packers in the supermarket with this one. But do not put my cheese with the meats. Do not put food that I'm going to eat with raw foods. I cannot take it. And it's like they don't even think about it sometimes.
they don't think about it, but it's so important. Like, please, I say all the time when I go to the supermarket, I ask them, I say, please put all my meats in a separate bag. I'll pay the 15 cents or the 30 cents for the bag. It's not a problem. But please don't put your raw meats with ready to eat things and your other foods. Put all your raw meat and stuff like that in one bag, away from everything else, because they'll cross contaminate. Cheese is just wrapped in plastic, and folded under, and those raw meat juices could definitely contaminate your cheese.
Oh, did you say raw meat juices? Okay, I'm going to have to tell you bye. Thank you so much for coming through and sharing with us. We definitely have lots more to talk about, so I look forward to speaking with you more as we continue to talk on food safety matters. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
And you, that's Carolyn Pilgrim, a food technologist, and you can find her at Spark Food Safety 246 on Instagram if you want more tips. And to find out more, of course, share or ask your questions. Morning Barbados will be right back after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 7:24. You're tuned to Morning Barbados. What are your plans for today? I know some people say they have Monday morning blues. I certainly hope you don't have any Monday morning blues today and you're going to have a great day at work, or if you're retired, whatever your plans are at school. I hope you have a fantastic day today. And this was a good choice, starting your day with Morning Barbados, so we keep you in the know. All right, so October 11th is known as International Day of the Girl. The theme tomorrow is The Future is Her. So joining us now, we have Crystal Walcott, who is communications lead with Leadership Institute, with her in the middle, emphasized. And we're talking about all that will be happening in recognition of this major day tomorrow. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Tisha. Good morning, Barbados.
All right, first of all, tell me a little bit about the Leadership Institute. It's new, but not new things that you're tackling.
Yes, so the Leadership Institute was started in March 2022, and we aim to address the underrepresentation of women in leadership by focusing on collaboration, governance, and empowerment. It is essential that women take up spaces in decision-making as well as advocacy. So we aim to build the capacity of women and remove any structural barriers that hinder their advancement. The Institute was founded by Roshana Trim and our team of 7 wonderful ladies. We come together to craft programs and projects that seek to advance the personal, professional, and social needs of women. And we actually had our first project this year in Belize, so a lot's happening with us.
Oh, and you're a pretty young team as well. So tell me,
Yes.
first of all, on a personal note, what piqued your interest in this area?
To be honest, I have always had a love for anything that empowers young women. For me, I have always wanted to work with building equality for women. So when I was offered the opportunity to be the communications lead, of course I jumped on it because there's so much that needs to be done to ensure our women take up the space that we need to in the Caribbean.
And A lot of what you do is about the underrepresentation of women in leadership spaces. How do you propose to be able to make a change in this area?
Well, honestly, it starts with targeting our youth, targeting our young girls, because they need to believe that they could actually take up a space in leadership, which is what our first outreach project, The Future is Her, is about. It's about talking about the issues that persons don't really want to talk about: mental health, self-confidence, self-worth. How do women move forward to actually want to take up a space in leadership? How do we encourage their ideas? How do we foster their growth? So that, for me, would be the very first place to start to encourage women to be leaders.
How do we convince people that we still need this conversation for women in leadership roles when we have a female prime minister, a female president, and females in so many positions of authority all across our country? I know certainly in other parts of the world we don't see a lot of representation with women, but how are we able to continue to advance this argument with these women in such positions of power?
To be honest, we see definitely Barbados is in a great place. We have the first female prime minister, the first female president. But then what next? We need to be able to inspire women to create places for them to go. And I think it's so important to start with the youth and go from there, because there's still really real underrepresentation across the region. Even looking at it right now in the CARICOM heads of government, how many females do we actually have?
And I know your project specifically is going to be targeting younger women and young girls from ages 11 to 18. Talk to us a little bit more about how that will roll out and what it will entail.
Okay, so it's actually going to be a very exciting workshop. We have a team of phenomenal women speaking to our young girls tomorrow. It's called The Future is Her, and this will be the launch to our affiliate program entitled For Caribbean Girls. So we will be having different personal development sessions on building confidence, self-esteem, tackling your mental health, tackling your finances, which is so important. And yeah, it will be at Solidarity House tomorrow. It will start at 8:30 a.m. and it's just going to be a really great day. Just to talk about some of our speakers, we have financial guru Melinda Peter, reigning Miss World Barbados, Shea Gwyneth. She's also into sustainable development. And we have a dance artist, Megan Michael. So there's going to be a lot of really exciting things happening tomorrow.
Before we get into the agenda, I know it's important to be able to make any organization a resource even after you put on, a specific project like this one. So what will you be doing moving forward, even post October 11th?
Okay, so we actually have our next project coming up again in Belize, but we will be working on some areas that are very important, looking at creating a more gender-inclusive Barbados in terms of the workplace, in terms of schools. And you could always reach out to us. You could find us on Instagram, leadhership institute, leadhershipinstitute@gmail.com if you want to collaborate. As I said before, one of the very important things for us is collaboration. So if you have an idea that you would want to work with us on, definitely you could reach out to us.
You specifically choose this group, younger women. What's the reasoning behind it?
There has not been a lot done to target young women in this way. I say that because even as I was growing up and I would have wanted to connect with women in leadership, I wasn't exactly sure how to do that. And at this time, targeting younger girls is a great way to actually get them inspired, get them motivated. Starting early, they will actually, might be most likely to carry on in leadership if we target them from young. So building confidence is especially important. Today is World Mental Health Day, so we know that having these conversations about mental health from a young age would be important as well. And yeah, definitely is important to start from young and keep the trend going from there.
Let's talk now specifically about the event tomorrow and what participants can expect, and then we can get into how people can participate.
Okay, so we have our sessions titled very cute. We have Inspire Her, which will be a session talking about building your self-worth, building your self-confidence. We also have the Confidence Club, which again talks to self-confidence, but we also have a session talking about mental health. We'll be looking at reproductive rights for women, and it's just going to be a really amazing day. And team building activities as well, because it's so important for women to know how to work together. And again, what better way to do that than to start from young?
What about participation?
Okay, so girls ages 13 to 16 are invited to register through their schools, but we have also opened the registration to the public for a contribution fee of $10. So you can find the registration link in our Instagram bio and go from there.
When all is said and done, what are you hoping for, at least in the short to medium term, as an organization?
Okay, well, following this event, we really would want any young girl to feel like she's empowered to be in the leadership space, to know that the future is her, and to know that the future is hers. And in the short term, we really want to continue working to build the capacity of women in any space that we can, whether it be through workshops, whether it be through training and mentorship. Those are definitely important areas for us to get into in the near future.
All right, so you have a pretty amazing looking team, as you mentioned, led by Roshana Trim, who's project lead and founder. So very interesting. I look forward to seeing all that you will have to offer. And from you, what do you think has contributed to you being so open and outspoken and so into a project like this one as a young woman?
Well, I want to be the change I want to see in society, if that makes sense. I want to be someone that young girls could look up to by using my voice, by using my talents. And I know the team is very talented in a myriad of ways, and that's just how we are. So, yeah.
I really look forward to hearing about all the topics you will tackle that the young women of this generation have to deal with that many other generations did not. Starting primarily with battling the internet. So I guess that should be interesting.
Things that we will be tackling as well. One thing I forgot to mention is that this will also be happening in Antigua at the same time.
That's amazing stuff, and congratulations to you and the entire team. And I hope that you have a wonderful session tomorrow with all of these young people. Make sure you come on back and let us know how it goes, okay?
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, that's Crystal Walker, Communications Lead with Leadership Institute. And The Future is Her is the theme for International Day of the Girl, which is being observed tomorrow, October 11th. And as she mentioned, it's going to be happening, the event will be happening here and simultaneously in Antigua. There's so much more to come on Morning Barbados, so you don't want to leave me. Stay there.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
24 minutes before 8 o'clock on Morning Barbados. Good to have you with us. A special good morning to those of you watching online. And I suspect this morning we're going to have quite a few people watching from way across the world as well, because we have a gentleman coming in this morning with a very serious story. We need to have your help to be able to work with him and help him. And his name is Adrian Howard, and he's open heart surgery survivor. Good morning to you, Adrian.
Good morning to you, and good morning to Barbados.
All right, now this question is very important. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, getting better day by day, taking life one day at a time now.
All right, Adrian, share your story with us. I know that you are a surfer and paddleboarder, and somehow
Yes.
you went out to do a lesson, and then everything changed in a matter of moments.
Yes, very much so. Um, well, I can start from the morning because everybody was asking me if I had any feelings that something would have happened or anything like that. But nothing happened that day that changed or anything like that. So I just went out teaching surfing, and when I got back to the shop, I just took a shower like normal, so everything happened like normal. Then I start having a pain in my chest, but it was a pain that I never felt before. So I told my friend I think I need to go to the hospital, and he told me, well, he looked on my face, he think I should go. So we went to the closest hospital, and a doctor came out. She checked my blood pressure because I have hypertensive runs in my family, and I was not on medication. So when she checked my blood pressure on my left hand, my blood pressure was extremely high. But then she checked my blood pressure on my left hand, and it was very low. So she gave me an aspirin just in case if it was like a heart attack or anything like that. And then she tell me she can't help me at this hospital, but I need to go to North Shore Hospital immediately. So she ended up calling an ambulance, and the ambulance came pick me up. On my way to North Shore Hospital, my blood pressure was still going up pretty high in my left hand, and then my right hand started to go numb. So I told the guy that was attending to me, my right hand is going numb, and he said that it's not a good sign. And he told the driver that he need to drive as fast as he can to get me to North Shore Hospital immediately, because I need urgent attention. And
Adrian,
mhm.
can we pause there for a moment? I mean, what was going through your head with all of this going on? Maybe it felt like a flash for you. Maybe it felt like it was just happening very, very quickly. But when you heard the EMT say, "Drive as fast as you can. This is not a good sign," what were you feeling? What were you thinking at that time?
I, I was just like, this is not a good sign if he's saying drive a little faster. And I was still trying to figure out what is happening to me, what is happening to the inside of me that is hurting so bad. Because from doing extreme sports and all different kind of sports, certain injuries and what the injury lead to, but I did not know what this one led to. And that was puzzling to me. So my mind was more on what is happening to my chest and why it's hurting so bad.
As you look back on everything that happened, maybe that day and days leading up to, were there any signs that you probably
No,
missed because you didn't know?
no, there are no signs at all. So when a doctor say high blood pressure is a silent killer, it is a silent killer. There are no signs or anything like that at all.
All right, so then you were at the hospital. Tell us what happened.
Everything happened like in a movie, basically. The doctors came out, put me on a stretcher, they rushed me down through the aisle, and then the next thing I know, I wake up the next day in the hospital with my chest feeling tight. So when I look at my chest, I realized I had a cut down my chest. So then the doctor came to me and told me my aorta had ruptured, but my rupture is a rupture that they never seen before. So my rupture was very, very bad. my aorta actually ruptured from my head all the way down to my groin. So my blood pressure was extremely high.
So we're really lucky to have you here with us today. And I think
Yes.
people would have picked up by now that you are not on island.
No.
So what has it been like being away from friends, family, and of course a familiar place?
Well, it's a little bit of struggle because this is my first winter here in New York, and every day is getting colder so far. And missing the warm water and missing the warm temperature in Barbados is one thing that you have to be thankful for, because we really don't realize that Barbados is like a paradise for us when we are there, but when we are away from Barbados, then we realize that hey, home is like home, that is some place you can't change.
How has this affected you generally as someone who's coming from a place of sport, of being very active? What are some of the changes with your body?
The main thing that affect me is because every day I used to be so active and I'm classified as a very fit person. So now the doctor tell me I have to slow down. And the only thing that they want me to do is walk and rest. And those are the two things that I never did, or I cannot really lay down just to just rest like that, because I'm so active in sports and what's not. So I cannot even lift anything past 5 pounds right now because they want me to just make sure my arteries are really good, make sure my heart is good. And I supposed to get another operation to fix my subclavian artery because my subclavian artery, they discovered that is a little bigger than normal. So the doctor said they may do a bypass, but they can't do a bypass as yet because the bottom part of my heart is a little weaker. So they need to do an echocardiogram scan again to take a look at my heart to see what they can do with the heart before they can actually do the surgery on my subclavian artery. But the doctor tell me I had basically angels watching over me because my situation with my high blood pressure was really, really bad. And to be alive right now to tell the story, only God can have me here. Nobody else could really save me that day. But they did whatever they can to fix most of my artery and stuff.
Adrian, now we're here getting to the real meat of the matter because
Hmm.
all of this can only be possible if you're able to pay for it. And I know that your
Hmm.
medical bills must be mounting. How have you been able to
Yes.
take care of this, and what do you need to do to be able to take care of the other things that must happen for you to survive?
Well, the doctor, they're giving me checks like every 2 weeks, and they want me to stay in the US for a full year because they need to monitor my condition. They never had someone with a condition like mine before because my condition is really, really bad, according to them. But I survived the whole thing, so they can't really tell me exactly when can I travel or what will happen. So basically, I'm like a test subject for them at this moment, and my medication they have to keep adjusting as time go by because my blood pressure is still going up a little bit higher. So I had a call a doctor last week and tell her my blood pressure is going back up. So she told me double up on my medication to see if that reduce it a little bit. But the bills and everything, because we in Barbados we don't really need medical insurance because you have free, you can go to QEH and everything will be okay. But traveling, usually you would need medical insurance, but um, it is a challenge, but my I have some really dedicated, really good friends and stuff, and everybody just pulled together on a GoFundMe page to help with my medical needs and stuff.
Tell me about that GoFundMe page. Where can we find it and we want to know how we can contribute.
Yes, the GoFundMe page is gofund.me/31284
Okay, so gofund.me/31284 lowercase c 70.
Yes.
Adrian, what are you hoping for? Like you said, you said you had no symptoms early on. In hindsight, there was nothing that gave you an inkling that there could have been something wrong.
No.
What are your hopes going into this ordeal? And I note with a smile on my face as well that in those photos that we saw of you, even post the procedure, that you've always had a smile on your face. So talk to us about your hopes for your health.
Yes, my hope is to get back to a little bit of normalcy. I know that it will take some time because the doctor told me my recovery will take a long time, and they suspect that it should take about a year. But to just get back to surfing, just get back to the actual things that I used to do before. But I know for sure I have to take it a little easier this time and monitor my blood pressure for sure. So now I am on medication for high blood pressure, and it's good to be able to tell other people my story, because a lot of people in Barbados, they suffer from high blood pressure, but no one really know if they have high blood pressure or anything like that. You're just walking around, but then it can just happen at any given moment that your arteries or anything like that can rupture without any warning, because I had no warning at all. I felt fine that day, and to be just here to talk about it after the doctor told me my situation was extremely bad, I am truly, truly grateful. But in all, to just get back to Barbados, some warm water, some warm temperature, and just try to live life the best I can.
All right, I want to wish you all the best, Godspeed, and I want to wish you a speedy recovery on behalf of the entire team and all of Barbados. And I hope that everybody can go to the GoFundMe page. Whatever you can contribute,
Yes.
It will add to what you need toward medical and living expenses.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I want to give you this opportunity to make your appeal personally as well to friends and relatives, people who know you, who might not, fellow countrymen who might be able to contribute to this worthy cause.
Yes. Well, it is very important that a lot of people get to understand their situation and stuff, and I am truly thankful for everyone who contribute. That shows a whole lot of friendship and show a lot of love and everything. And even like in Barbados, I have like part of my family have high blood pressure and part of my family have low blood pressure, and that is kind of strange. But no one knows what is actually happening to your body, because not many people get regular checks or anything like that. And you have to really be grateful and thankful for every day that you wake up and you can actually smile and tell someone you love them or anything like that.
All right. Well, again, we wish you the best. Go to the GoFundMe page. We put the information on screen so that you can follow. Thank you for sharing with us, Adrian.
Thank you so much for having me.
All the best to you.
Thank you.
Make sure you go check it out, because, we never know where we need help from other people as well. So if you can, however little it is, I'm sure it will help. We're going to take another break on Morning Barbados and come back as we get ready for a little bit of fun and some words and some letters and some unscrambling. I certainly hope you are ready, because I am. That's next on Morning Barbados. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's already 8 minutes before 8 o'clock. Where does the time go? I feel like we just got here and we started just around 6 o'clock or so with Morning Report, Morning Barbados at 6:30, and it's already almost 8 o'clock. I know when it rains, we usually get even more traffic outside, and you want to make sure that you leave early enough so that you can get there on time, especially if you're taking the little ones to school. Definitely want to set a good example for them as well. All right, time for some spelling. Time for some words. Time for Unscramble This. I think we need some theme music. People in the back. People in the back. Yeah, some theme music for this. Unscramble This. At least a drum roll. Yes, yes, something. Some applause or something like that. All right, now, Bajan words, Bajan things, Bajan phrases. Let's see if you can get this. All right, let me see. Okay, they're laughing already. Okay, 2 words. So this one is a Bajan phrase. I think I know this one already. But you're calling 228-5562 or 228-5563 and letting me know what this phrase is. And then you get to use it in context as well. So unscramble this. Something that Bajans say. And I'm going to give you a clue. Now that it's raining outside, you find that people would probably say this a little bit more. You know, or maybe if you're sick, you know, that's how people in Barbados gauge somebody might be sick, you know. I don't know. What are you thinking? I think that was a pretty good clue. So get to your telephone lines and call me. I see that you're having a good time with the sound effects back there. All right, so we have a caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hiya, where are you calling me from?
The beautiful parish of St. George.
St. George. What's your name?
Pardon me?
What's your name?
Natalie.
Natalie?
Yes, please.
All right, I certainly hope that you have the answer, Natalie. And scramble it for me. Do you have the answer?
Drawing up.
It is drawing up. That's really a truly Bajan thing to say, right? All right, so now you have to use it in a sentence for me.
My son always drawing up left, he's sick.
Is that true?
Yes, correct. No, he in bed.
No school?
No, he's 25 years old.
No work?
No, he's on vacation.
That is not drawing up. That's resting if
No,
he's on vacation. All right, well, thank you. That went well. What are your big plans for today?
I'm on my way to work.
All right, well, you have a good time. And don't get no wet hair. All right, take care. St. George won that one. All right, here's another one. Oh, man, this one has a lot of F's. I have to be careful with my pronunciation. And so do you, all right? 4341, oh, wrong number, 228-5562 or 228-5563. Old habits die hard. You know that. All right, so call me up and see if you can unscramble this particular word. Remember, they're all Bajan words. And if there is a Bajan word, it's this. Trust me. If I give you a clue, it's all about maybe tying up someone's head. Yeah. I think that's a pretty good clue. So call me up and show me what you're made of. And I want to hear, I'm yet to hear, I've been here an entire week and a day today, and I'm yet to hear from St. Joseph and St. Andrew. Last week we heard from St. Lucy. We heard from someone from St. Michael, I believe St. James, but some of the other parishes, I would love, love, love to hear from you, hear what's going on in your neck of the woods. Y'all are just going crazy with these sound effects, man. Come on. Let's go back to the phone line. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Tisha. Tisha, how are you
Good morning. I'm doing well. I-de-do. You know, people usually say, howdy-do, and I say, I-de-do. Howdy-do you? What's your name?
You have a way with words.
What's your name?
But you have a way with words, but I think I can unscramble any that you come with.
Oh, but that sounds good. Tell me your name. Unscramble that for me.
Say that again, please.
What's your name?
My name is Michael, as in Michael
Michael,
Jackson.
Michael, you had to think about that, boy. I'm not sure. That might be an alias. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from my home. Ha ha ha.
Where's home, Michael?
It's
Where's home?
It's Michael.
St. Michael. Michael from St. Michael. Unscramble this word, Michael from St. Michael.
The word is it reminds me of you a lot, though. Kafafu.
Kafuffle?
Kafafu.
Why? I'm not going to ask you why this word reminds you of me, Michael. I'm not going down that rabbit hole at all.
Well, I'm glad you're smart enough because it will welcome the opportunity to explain to you.
All right, well, you have to use it in context for us before we go.
Use it in context. Well, I will endeavor to use it out of context. Some ladies are really clever, but I make sure that they don't ever kerfuffle me.
Well, you better make sure, fella. What a sentence that was, and what a way to close out this unscrambling. Thank you, Mr. St. Michael from St. Michael. Have a great day, all right?
Bye-bye. You have a great day as well. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Michael from St. Michael. Do we have time for just one more? How about that? One more. No, they say we're out of time. So I want to thank you for sharing with us and being a part of Morning Barbados. We had a great show today, of course, observing World Mental Health Day today and telling you all about the day tomorrow that we'll be celebrating girls. So make sure you read up a little bit more about what will be happening and participate in all of those activities. On behalf of the entire crew, thanks for joining us. Have a fantastic day today. And do remember to wear your smile. I'm Tisha Hines. See you tomorrow.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.